Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of our Foundation for Free Enterprise Education speaker series. My name is Scott Lee, and today I'm really pleased to have with us Joe Hurd, the president of the Blair County Chamber of Commerce, who is going to speak with us about the vital importance of writing and speaking well. Joe holds a BA in journalism from Shippensburg University, and he began his career as a writer for a Catholic newspaper in the Diocese of Altoona. From there, he moved into human resources and then into healthcare. And for the past 23 years, he's been president of the Blair County Chamber of Commerce. He and his wife, Kelly, have 3 adult children, 2 daughters and a son. Joe serves on several nonprofit boards, including the Foundation for Free Enterprise Education. He's coached girls basketball for many years and volunteers at his church. In his spare time, Joe is a voracious reader, and 3 days a week you can find him at the Y at 6:30 a.m. playing full-court competitive basketball. He's also currently writing a fiction novel. Joe, it's great to have you with us. Welcome.
It's great to be here, Scott, and I have to correct one thing you said. By 6:30 a.m., we're already done. We started 5:30, so...
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's just, there's nothing that sounds more awful than that. I give you credit.
Start the day if you can live through it.
That's fantastic. Good for you. So listen, let's dive right in. You graduated with a degree in journalism, and you told me earlier that the ability to write well is perhaps the most important skill for a young person to have. We see students all the time at PFEW that have never even written a letter. Tell us why writing well is so important.
Well, I guess the short answer would be because so few people do it well at this point. With young people in particular, there's, the electronic devices don't really require that you spend a lot of time on quality with the way that you communicate. And so, unfortunately, a lot of the writing skills are not being pursued to the extent that they really need to. And unfortunately, and I think our best example is with our hiring process at our Chamber of Commerce, whether we're hiring a new employee or whether we're looking for interns or anything. We get resumes submitted to us for those positions, and we very seldom get to the resume because the cover letter is generally so bad that we kind of eliminate the candidate before even seeing what their qualifications and their experience amounts to. And it's just something that we feel is very important, and the communication aspect is critical.
Wow, that's actually incredible. I mean, and I hope everybody heard that. The fact of the matter is, if you don't write a good, coherent cover letter, you may not even get a look, and that's so very important. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's great. So you've had 4 very different jobs in your life, and when we were talking earlier, how you got them and how you moved from one to the other is a pretty fascinating story, and it all involves writing well and listening well and speaking well. So talk a little bit about your transition in your job and how writing and speaking and listening helped you out.
Well, with a degree in journalism, it was I was hoping to secure a position right away in either the newspaper or magazine industry, and I was fortunate to get a job right out of college, writing some, but mostly selling advertising for a publication and doing whatever writing opportunities came along. I was there for 9 years, loved what I was doing, had all kind of freedom and flexibility to direct stories, and however I felt they made the most sense, and they didn't always make sense, but that's another story in itself. But after 9 years, I was actually doing a feature story on somebody for our publication, and I was at a Catholic nursing home, and the administrator of that facility thought I was there to apply and be interviewed for their human resources position, a director's position. And so when she called me back to her office and I went back, she said, just what does it makes you think you can be my human resource director? And my response was nothing. I don't think there's anything that makes me I could be your human resources director. And I told her that I was there to do an interview for a story, and we had a nice laugh. And we talked for a little while, and she told me, they needed to hire somebody that was that could kind of settle things down. They had a union organizing effort and had fired the HR director and fired the director of nursing, and they were looking for somebody that could communicate with the employees and kind of just allow the employees to see how valuable they were to that facility. And at the end of our talk, she said, "Well, what about you? Are you interested in the position?" I said, "Sister, I have no background in human resource management, and although it sounds interesting, I'm not sure that that's the career field that I am going into anytime soon." And talked a little bit more, and it started to interest me a little bit more, and I thought, what the heck. So the following week, I was the human resources director at Garden Manor Nursing Home. And 8 years there, really kind of fell in love with long-term care. Again, a lot of my responsibilities were communication with the employees, but I also started a newsletter directed to employees, did a lot of communication type things, writing in particular that really was right up my alley, and I really enjoyed that experience. And along the way, they encouraged me to get a nursing home administrator's license, and I managed to take the test and pass the test, and suddenly I'm a nursing home administrator. And not long after that, I'm contacted by one of the other nursing homes in our area, and they said, "We understand you're a nursing home administrator. How would you like to be our nursing home administrator?" And I said, "Why not?" So, they hired me, and I spent 4 years there. Loved every minute of it. And during that time, the corporation that owned the nursing home, as one of my assignments, I guess, from them, or I guess thinking back on it, they were looking for a volunteer to represent them at the local Chamber of Commerce meetings. And since that didn't interfere with anything else that I was involved in, and it seemed like it was something, again, that was maybe suited to some of the things that I enjoyed doing, I was the volunteer, and they put me through the Chamber's leadership program, and I got on a few Chamber committees, and I guess it's too late to say the short story for this, but the executive director's position at the Chamber of Commerce came open, and the person who was retiring in that position asked me to apply for the position, or at least be interviewed. I told him I was not interested. I was very happy doing what I was doing, and the more we talked again, and I guess I'm an easy kind of a pushover for being convinced of doing things, but I agreed to go through with the interview, and I was interviewed by a group of business people, and they offered me the position, and why not? And, this one I've been there a little longer. I've been there, as you said, 23 years, and I cannot pinpoint one day in 23 years that I woke up in the morning and thought, "Oh, I hate going to work today." I've loved every minute of the position, and just I've never looked back.
That is awesome. So, but what I'm hearing, if I listen properly, and hopefully I would, it sounds like the one constant in this entire journey, Joe, has been your ability to communicate. First of all, written communication in communicating to your employees through a newsletter, and kind of turning that ship around. I mean, everybody was disgruntled, everybody was unhappy, unfulfilled, and just the simple act of writing well and communicating to your employees your expectations and all that kind of stuff led to a very successful career in that. And then your speaking skills got you every single subsequent position. So it sounds to me as though if you have those basic skills really honed in well, writing well, speaking well, listening well, it sounds like you listened to people that actually were planting seeds in you. You had to listen too. So what advice would you give to our listeners today and young people in general as to how they should develop skills, or what skills they should develop to be able to be flexible in their future? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think that the real key is trying to take as many of those skills as you possibly can and really hone them to the extent that you're really well supplied with skills when you go into any type of career choice that you're considering. As you mentioned, I coached high school basketball for 16 years, and so a lot of the talks that I give, I kind of reference basketball because there are so many things about being really good at a sport that require that you look at all aspects of those. And so I tell people, I use LeBron James as an example of somebody that, you've got to be able to shoot the basketball. You've got to be able to pass the basketball well. You've got to be able to be a good ball handler. You've got to develop instincts for rebounding and for defense. And the more of those things in your career, as you prepare for your career, that you can check off as something that you've explored and really have spent considerable time in many cases developing, it just gives you a leg up on anybody that you may be competing with for a particular position. And again, the more things that you can point to as positive experiences for you, the greater value you have to an employer. And my own daughter also just graduated from Shippensburg and has a degree in marketing and has been working at a corporation during her breaks in their human resource department. So she's picked up some good experience in HR to go with her marketing, and the business that she's worked at really likes her, but doesn't have a position available in either of those, but wants to keep her involved. And she's now, they've offered her an opportunity to go into their accounting department just to see whether that's something else that she may like until something comes up that's maybe a little bit closer to her skill set. And the more we talked about that, she said, "Well, I don't like this as much." And I said, "Well, you might not like it as much, but every day that you do it makes you more valuable to that business and makes you more valuable to your next employer." And I think that's really where a lot of young people kind of hone in on a particular job or a particular skill, and then when something either doesn't work out, or with the unpredictability of the job market these days, when you have to be able to move into something else, the more experiences that you have, the better. And certainly, I think some of those skills, in particular, and again, comes back to writing, listening, speaking, all the ones that are still so important, but are not quite as important to those who are declining to learn them at this point. It's your value as an employee and your satisfaction in a career pretty much depend on how flexible you are and how willing you are to learn as much as you can possibly learn.
That's brilliant advice. I mean, the flexibility and the willingness to learn, I think, is a lot of all that employers are looking for. The bottom line is, as I said before, many of our students that we see at PFEW have never even written a letter. So what would you recommend as we wrap up here, Joe? What would you recommend them to start doing? I mean, if they're not required to write letters in school and all that kind of stuff, one of the things that was always drilled into me was the importance of writing a thank you note, a handwritten thank you note. And I'm seeing it today in my current job. I mean, the power of a handwritten thank you note is even more expounded simply because nobody's doing it. So how would you recommend young people start writing? And are there resources that you would recommend that they could use in order to improve their writing and communication skills?
Well, I think certainly the best way to become a good writer is to commit time to writing and finding people who you have some confidence in that can help you. I mean, I think the schools do a really good job in trying to prepare people to be able to write. I'm just not sure that the prioritization is where it needs to be. And so I would encourage, young people to, even if it meant having to take some type of a remedial course in communications or in some type of in writing or speaking is another. There are organizations around like Toastmasters and organizations like that will help people to develop those skills. But writing and reading is another thing. I mean, the more reading you can do, and the more variety of what you read can certainly even help with your abilities to write. When you recognize what good writing looks like, through reading, that can also be a good avenue for you to pursue. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you for that. And quite honestly, I think there are a lot of colleges and universities that will open up a classroom. You can audit a class in writing, communication, like a freshman level class, and high school students can go in there and audit it, meaning that they can sit in on the class, they can do all the work and participate in all the class. They don't get any credit for it, but they don't have to pay for it. So I would encourage all of our viewers today to, reach out to either a local chamber of commerce or a local college or university and see if they can do that. And quite honestly, now today, there's so many resources available online, but you just got to start. So Joe, listen, thank you so much for this. I appreciate your time. This is a terrific topic. I could talk to you all day on this because I love to read and write. It's what I do for my job. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get a hold of Joe, his contact information will be after this video. But I encourage you to reach out, and improve your reading and writing skills. You got to get your resume read first and foremost, and it's always appropriate to be able to write effectively and say thank you properly, and it just lends that much more power and another tool in your toolbox, just like Joe said. Joe, thanks so much for a great conversation.
Thank you.